All right, Kylie, thank you. Well, workforce is perhaps the biggest beneficiary of early childhood education providers' ability to consistently deliver quality learning outcomes. There's a projected shortfall of more than 9,000 childcare workers and preschool teachers in Indiana by 2027, with 16% of current early childhood education teachers indicating they plan to leave the field in the next 3 years. In our Eye on Education segment this week, Early Learning Indiana CEO Maureen Weber is here to explain how a new partnership is focusing on closing Indiana's talent gaps with a competency-based, job-embedded preparation program for early childhood workers. And Maureen, welcome to the program.
Thank you so much.
So much talk about early childhood learning, early childhood education, big issue in the business community. A lot has happened, some at the State House, some elsewhere, a lot more to go, I know. Give us the state of early learning, if you will, in Indiana.
Absolutely. You know, early childhood education operates in a really unusual place in the ecosystem of a community. It has an important impact on economic development. It's sort of an essential ingredient to a thriving neighborhood. And then we know that it has a multi-generational impact on the families that it serves. And so we've seen just increased emphasis across Indiana on the importance of early learning opportunities and making sure that all families have access.
Talk about the role of Early Learning Indiana in that process.
Sure.
Give us a little thumbnail of the organization.
Sure. So Early Learning Indiana has been around for 120 years. We're celebrating a birthday as we speak. And our organization really does a couple of things. First of all, we operate 9 early learning centers in Marion County where we serve about 1,000 children a year. And then in addition, we spend a lot of time sharing what we know with other providers, helping them improve their practice. Yeah. And then lastly, working sort of at the systems level to make policy and other change.
I want to get to the program I mentioned in the intro in a moment, but the economic cost of inefficient or poor early learning outcomes, if you will. You put an economic cost to Indiana on that.
We did. So we did a study last year and found that about $3 billion of economic impact for lack of access or problems with accessing early care opportunities throughout the state of Indiana. And that comes through a couple of things: direct costs for employers, loss of economic activity, and then ultimately loss in tax revenues as well.
All right, talk about this workforce program partnership, I think, with the Fairbanks Foundation.
That's exactly right.
You were pretty excited about.
Yeah, so the Richard M. Fairbanks Foundation partnered Ascend Indiana and Early Learning Indiana to really think about this workforce challenge. So as you mentioned in the opening, one of the biggest barriers to access is actually having a qualified workforce to provide the services. And so what we know is that there is a projected shortfall, and we certainly experience it within our own centers as well. So we've thought about how do we innovate our way out of this problem? How do we kind of go back to brass tacks and think about preparation models? And so what we are designing is a more competency-based, job-embedded approach that will really speed up time to productivity and help to make sure that we've got a more sustainable workforce.
How can businesses, because a lot of businesses already engaged in this issue,
right.
But what can businesses do to get involved?
You're exactly right. We have some giants in this community like Eli Lilly and PNC, IU Health, and others who have been very engaged. If you're a business that's just thinking about becoming involved, we would really recommend you start by surveying your own workforce. What are their needs in terms of childcare? There are opportunities through flexible spending accounts and other things that almost any employer can do. If you're more interested, you could partner with a early childhood provider like Early Learning Indiana to provide a benefit to your team members as well. So there are many things they can do. Yeah,
very quickly, this is not a budget writing session at the Indiana State House, but I know that's a big issue for proponents of early childhood education. As you look to next year and momentum behind, how do you see the landscape?
Yeah, we'll continue to talk about the importance of pre-K. We had a great budget year last year and managed to keep our funding level, and we look to expand that to additional counties and children going forward.
All right. Maureen, Early Learning Indiana is certainly a very important organization dealing with a very important issue. Thanks for joining us. Look forward to having you back on the show.
Appreciate it very much.
All right. And a reminder, all of our Eye on Education segments can be found at InsideIndianaBusiness.com. Also, if you have an interesting story idea or a suggestion, please send them to lead producer Tara Twig at ttwig@growindiana.net.